Welcome to beautiful Vista, California. Today's workshop is about Soma-Kinetics. Soma means body, that's a Greek word for the body. And kinetics is movement. So any type of movement, but in particular, the movements should be mindful. So what is mindful? Mindful is the capacity to be aware. That's according to Thich Nhat Hanh. Who ever heard of Thich Nhat Hanh? Anybody? Yeah. Great master, Zen master. So it's, and in addition to that, it's mindful breathing that goes with the movement. So that's the important thing in your regular yoga practice. You probably already know that, but usually if you learn a new movement, you have a tendency to hold your breath. Okay, so we all need to work on that. The movements you're going to learn, they're actually very simple and very gentle. You never want to go where there is strain or pain. We don't like that. So in order not to get into that strain or pain level, we do the movements in increments. Usually, if you do a movement like this for your pectoralis, as well, you're going to say 90%, then you release just a little bit, and then again, release, and again, and release, and again, and release. So what happens is, if you do it in increments, you will end up with 110 or 120% of the possible stretch. That is very different than a static stretch. Most of the time, I would say most of the time in your regular yoga class, the average person goes for a static stretch and you hold. But then our Western mind says, and you look around, and then Marianne and Joe Blow, they're going deeper into that stretch. So your mind says, okay, I want to try that too. That's when we get hurt, okay? Because you're going from a static stretch into that pain level, okay? That 105%. And that's when the micro tears occur. And we don't like that. So doing the stretches in increments, that's part of Soma-Kinetics. Any questions on that? Oh, okay. We usually do the movements 8 or 10 times. This way, the brain makes the connection to, especially if you're new to the movement, the brain makes the connection, and each time the movement actually becomes easier. First of all, you're acquainted with it, and the body knows what to do. Okay. Also, most of the movements are multi-dimensional. We, human beings, are created to move multi-dimensional. You see that with little kids, with infants or toddlers, when they play all over the place. Until we tell them, don't do this, don't do that. But they really enjoy the movement, and that's what we like to be, really enjoy the movement, either if you're walking or just moving into dance, for instance. That's another nice way to improve your flexibility. Any new movement, so keep in mind, it's the breathing, to be mindful of about the movement, and also the movements to be more multi-dimensional. So what does it mean? And or rotational movements. We as adults usually move linear. Okay, so I'm a cyclist. Well, what I do, well, I'm always doing the same movement, and I'm pretty much cramped here. So I need to do different movements, otherwise my body is going to get used to that and actually becoming very stiff. So it will behoove us to copy actually children, how they move. Multidimensional, you can call it multidimensional, multidirectional, omnilateral, whatever name you come up with, it's moving in all different directions versus the linear stuff. And again, running is good for you, but then your muscles will get used to that particular movement, and it would behoove us to do something different than just the running movement. Okay, any questions so far? You want to move, right? I'd like to talk about cell replacement, okay? There's always the question about aging. Some people, they age earlier than other ones. You can say, well, part of it is genetics. Some of the research shows that only 20% is really genetics. The rest, 80%, will be epigenetics. What is epigenetics? It's whatever comes after you were born. The air you breathe, the food you eat, the stress level you have, all those things, of the diet, that is part of the epigenetics. If you are an office worker and sit for 6 to 8 hours, it's not very conducive to your posture and your well-being. So, having a particular program for yourself, either it's yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, Qigong, Feldenkrais technique, Alexander technique, Soma-Kinetics, whatever it is, whatever you have a passion for. If it's dancing, wonderful. Ballet, jazz, anything, the movement. To incorporate that into your daily life and be passionate about it. If somebody says, "What, Pilates is wonderful," and it is, but if you don't create a passion for it, well, you're not going to do it very often. So that's the other aspect of it, to create a passion. That it's yoga. There's so many different types of yoga out there. All right. So cell replacement, back to the aging process. So as you probably know, the chromosomes have on the very end tips, they're called telomeres. So the research shows the longer lifespan somebody has, the longer those telomeres are. And anytime there's a cell replacement, for instance, in the stomach, the cells in the stomach are replaced on a daily basis because of the acid. There's some other cells, say the bones, where it takes longer. It would take a whole year to replace some of those cells. Some of the cells are replaced every 7 years. But pretty much after 7 years, your whole body, you have a totally new body. You're not the same. That's pretty unique. But what happens, the telomeres become shorter and shorter. If they would stay the same length, we would actually live forever. So now science is working on a project. How are we going to extend those telomeres? And there is a way. One is good diet, fresh air, less stress, exercise, that's proven fact, meditation, that's a proven fact. They tested people that meditate and do yoga, that I think they did a test for 6 months, and their telomeres actually increased. Kind of unique. So there's an enzyme that helps you retain same length and or actually become longer. It doesn't matter how old you are. And by having a good diet, by having less stress, by breathing, fairly good air. If you live in Beijing, I was in Beijing, it is terrible. We are lucky here. We are so close to the ocean, and have in our cities are relatively good air to breathe. So they're the important factors. Also, sunshine, vitamin D. And I know we're all told that we're not supposed to go out in the sun because it creates skin cancer. Well, there's different research out there. There's also, just look at African people on a regular diet, on their home diet. They'll get skin cancer. Never heard of it. Now, African Americans seem to have more skin cancer than the rest of the population. Doesn't make any sense, right? So usually Caucasians, they go and get a tan. African Americans, they usually don't go to the beach to get a tan. First of all, they're told not to go. Well, we're all told not to go. So anyways, the research shows 20 minutes of sunshine is very, very good for you. If you live in Chicago, you're probably not going to get that. Then you can say, well, I'm going to take a supplement, vitamin D. Some of the research shows, well, vitamin D, if it's the components or the chemical, if it's not a natural substance, it's not bioavailable. It's not bioavailable. So if you get vitamin D through your diet, that's excellent, but it needs to be synthesized via the sun. So think about that. Do some more research on it. I don't have all the research in my head, but I'm trying to keep up with that. But that's an interesting fact. Vitamin D, sunshine, vitamin. Okay. I'd like to also talk about a little bit how the body is put together. And we were talking about earlier, somebody has a shoulder issue or any type of issue. But how are we connected? Okay, that is connective tissue. It's also called, the Latin name would be fascia. And the bones are really floating within. Take, for instance, the shoulder. The shoulder has 5 joints in there. If they're all those bones, shoulder blade, you got the collarbone, all the joints are connected with connective tissue. And if you don't use movements in multi-directional movement, then, well, you're going to get stiff. And I like to show you, everybody has in their neighborhood, they have an Uncle Fred. I call it Uncle Fred or Aunt Mary. And if I may demo. So Uncle Fred walks down the hall or down the road, and then you call Uncle Fred. Uncle Fred! Uncle Fred turns around. So what happened? Uncle Fred, because of injuries, because of stress, because of, well, Uncle Fred is about 65, 75, 85. Uncle Fred, his body forgot how to turn. Or you can turn your head, you can turn your trunk. He forgot. This whole system forgot. His neurological system really forgot. And that's what Soma-Kinetics is all about, is to memorize what was, and it can be. You can reintroduce your flexibility. It's not only the flexibility, but it's the coordination of the movement. If you are a carpenter, for instance, and that's all you do, well, especially the right hand, well, it will be very, very well developed. Good. Building houses, and whatever. Those muscles gonna get big. But then ask that carpenter to do a rotational movement. It's probably not gonna happen because there's no memory in there. Okay, questions so far? We've got to start moving, I know. So getting back to fascia, the connective tissue, I'd like for you to turn your head to the right side, to your right side, and memorize the spot. And then come back to center. Okay, everybody memorize the spot? Okay. Now, take your right hand and massage your right ear for about a minute. That's what my teacher used to do when I was a bad boy in class. You know, I pulled my ear. So, really massage all that tissue on the top. You can gently, gently pull on that earlobe and pull it forward, and even massage behind your ear. So now there's a lot of blood flow going into that area. All right, just 5 more seconds. And then release, and then turn to the right side again, and notice if you increase your range of motion. What happened? Anybody?
I can see much further.
You can see much further.
Rotate more.
So what do you think that is? It's a miracle. Lab, what do you have to say to that? Did you have your range of motion increase? Yeah? Okay. So that is part of the fascia, the connective tissue, because it's all connected. All right. So we're going to do a couple more of micro movements. In particular, I like to, for shoulder opening, everybody please lay on their right side, on their right side. And then bring your right arm up in about 45 degrees. And I'm going to come over. If you don't know what 45 degrees is, that's okay. So the objective is to increase the stretch for your pectoralis muscle. Okay? Everybody okay with that? I'm sorry. Of course it is. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So you want to be on the side. Okay. You feel a stretching here. Okay. So now I want you to inhale, release, and then exhale. Inhale, release, and exhale. So just let gravity work for you. Inhale, release, and exhale. And you may notice that each time it's going to go a little bit farther. So, in particular, the pectoralis muscle is talking to you. Inhale, exhale. Each time it will release just a little bit more. Okay. So the next time you inhale, I want you to hold your breath. And notice what's happening with that arm. Hold your breath. It's not moving very much, is it? And then whenever you're ready to exhale, exhale. And it should release a little bit more. So continue, inhale, exhale, and release. So this is what I said earlier, is the mindful movement with mindful breath. That will help release the muscles and the tendons and the fascia, connective tissue. And you'll be surprised, eventually you will end up on the floor with that hand if you do it for another 5 or 10 minutes. But we in this class, we like to do the other side also. Any questions on this? Did everybody have a response to that? With the pectoralis being released? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, good, good. All right. So please turn onto your other side. Okay, now bring your right arm up in about 45 degrees and inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, release. Now also notice, is this arm, is that easier for you? Possibility. Wow, look at this. So it's not only the pectoralis that's releasing, but also the muscles between the ribs, okay? There are dozens of muscles being coordinated and released. And next time, hold your breath, and you may notice that the arm is not releasing. Okay, whenever you're ready, inhale. And exhale. Oh, now it releases again. Okay, very nice. Any questions on this movement here? So you can release any muscle group in incrementally versus the static way. If it's static, there will be a lot of limitations there and possibly injuries. And doing it incrementally, then there will be no injury. Okay. Who has back pain? Anybody? Back pain? Second?
I keep having my sacrum go out on both sides.
Okay. Let's do a particular movement that can help you with lower back pain, and mainly it's strengthening the lower back. Okay. So let's stand up. And this will sound like a paradox, but we're actually going to contract the lower back in order to do a forward bend. But first, we test our forward bend and just naturally come down and just see where are you today in your forward bend. And remember just where you are, because we're going to test that later. And gently coming up. And now place both hands towards the back, and we're going into a gentle back bend. And release. Back bend. Release. Deep breathing. and 5. Four. 3. 2. 1, and this time we hold. 3 deep cleansing breaths. Release. And let's check our forward bend again. And perhaps you have a decent range of motion. Anybody? Feedback? A little bit?
Yeah.
So, we didn't stretch it, the lower back, right? It's interesting. We're actually contracting it by doing a back bend, but that's a paradox, right? And then all of a sudden you can do a forward bend much easier. So that's another interesting concept of somatics or Soma-Kinetics. All right. Lay on your back, please. In order to loosen up the lower back, please bring your knees up, feet flat on the mats. And you were complaining about back pain. Can I demo with you?
Sure.
Okay. So knees together, feet together. Gently, gently bring the right knee forward and the left knee towards your face. It's really a hip movement. And then reverse. And then reverse. And notice what's going on in your lower back. That movement goes all the way up to your occipital ridge because those muscles are connected. What do you feel there? What's going on? Is one side easier for you than the other one? Well, you notice something on this side. You notice left and right?
Neither one of them are.
Okay. All right, 5. 4. 3. 2. And 1. So if you have low back pain, that's a very nice way to loosen up and also strengthen the area. The next one for lower back pain, pelvis tilt. Pelvis tilt. Don't lift the hip up. It's just a thin tilt. Michael Jackson in the Thriller.
But your feet should stay
Feet-
when you're
feet
doing,
stay.
when you're doing this thing, your
I
feet should
help
move,
you.
right?
I help.
When you're doing that, when your
Yeah.
feet should not move.
Yeah. No, we don't have to. No. So now what we're looking for is pelvis, yeah, and then arching the back. Yeah. Feel that? Uh-huh. Who needs help with that? Nice. Very nice, very nice. Feeling and sensing and exploring those gentle movements. 5.
So what do you do when it makes your back fat?
4. 3. 2.
You start getting cramps.
And 1. So continuing on this lower back issue, because it seems to be an epidemic out there, to strengthen the lower back, simply bring your hips up on an inhale, and then gently lower. Double, again, strengthen the lower back, and please contract your glute muscles when you bring your hips up, and then slowly release. Inhale, come on up. Exhale, release. Inhale, come on up. Pressing through. 5. 4. 3. 2. And 1, and hold, pressing through. Tighten those glutes. 3 deep cleansing breaths. Release. Okay, if you'd like to sit up and get a little bit of feedback, do you have any questions of those movements?
So with that, it's like my right side of my back stabbed a bit. With doing the lifting.
Is the lifting
the
up?
pelvic tilt was doing it.
Uh-huh. Oh, just the tilt? Your body's not used to that. Yeah. But it's you can do that standing too. Okay, the pelvis tilt, and maybe just for the first time for you, that's why it would spasm up. But it's just a gentle movement. Okay. Any other comments on that? Okay. Let's. I do have a manual, and also DVDs available if you need to get back to some of the movements because they're new to you. And you like to, if you do like the movements. Hip release. Any problems with hips? Yeah? Okay. You're gonna see my back, all right? So if everybody would like to sit in mermaid fashion, in other words, knees to the left and feet to the right. And you can support yourself with the left hand, either with your knuckles down, palm down, whatever feels comfortable for you. But notice the space between the mat and your right sitting bone. Is there space? If there's no space, you can apply for a Cirque du Soleil. Okay. We're going to check that later. And simply put your right hand on the right hip and then gently press that hip forward. So you're contracting that glute now. And then release. Inhale, come on up. Contract the glute. And release. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. And this time we hold, pressing through, tightening the glute. 3 deep cleansing breaths. there's a good chance that you improve the range of motion. You possibly are closer now with your right sitting bone if you want to check it again. Yes? All right. Spinal twist. Place both hands towards the left side. And then play around with the distribution of the weight, whatever feels comfortable for you. And then let your head hang. On the next inhale, look up towards the ceiling, stretch. And exhale, chin towards the chest. If you really like to have a challenge, then have your eyeballs go in the opposite direction than your head. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, release. 5. 1. Now gently lower yourself towards the forearms. And then possibly stretch your arms out. Breathe deep, cleansing breaths. And release. Let's change over to the other side. Right knee back. Left hand on the left hip, push the hip forward, contract the glute, and then gently release. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1, and hold. 3 deep cleansing breaths. And release. Now also look over the right shoulder and mark a spot. Everybody has that spot? Okay, lower yourself towards your forearms and elbows. Let those muscles adjust. Three deep cleansing breaths. And then possibly you want to stretch your arms out and even go farther to the back if you like. Just give it a try. 3 deep cleansing breaths. Release. And then look over the right shoulder again and see if you increase your range of motion. What happened? Anybody?
Better.
It's a miracle. All right, wonderful.